Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently on our way over to check on our colony that is itself on its way to Gilly. Now we'll see how far we actually end up getting on that. I suspect at this point that we are going to need additional fuel to get there, and that's fine, we can send additional fuel. But we'll just hop over here, we're on an escape trajectory, we'll see how far we get. As long as we make it into Eve orbit, we should have no trouble rendezvousing. Rendezvousing in orbit of the sun could take a long time, and I'd really prefer not to do that. But off we go here. We have our Kerbal escape in 17 days. Let's just take a quick look at... Let's focus the sun. There we go. Eve is our target. Oh, we already set this up. Right, we did that last episode. 332.1 meters per second isn't too bad, actually. That's not too bad at all. 1 minute 35 second burn. Okay, that sounds good to me. So let's get ready here. We have, of course, jettisoned some extra weight, I think. No, we were planning to as soon as this burns out. That's right. Okay, so let's go ahead and commence this burn shortly, and we'll pin this open and keep an eye on that. We will be jettisoning this weight relatively quickly here. Okay, so we're going to commence this burn in about 10 seconds, and how long of burn time do we actually have here? 366 seconds? That's not a lot, to be honest. 3, 2, 1, mark. And okay. Let's head over to the maneuver node. That shouldn't be that far off, to be honest. I mean, I know our weight isn't exact, but that's yikes. That's a real big yikes. Okay. Well, in that case... that means that we have to thrust limit this way, way down. I did not expect that. I definitely did not expect that. We're controlling from the correct point. All of these advanced reaction wheels are on. That's wild. That's really wild, actually. Huh. I certainly would not have expected this. Okay, so we've got the same thing going on here, where this number is going down way faster. Wait, this number went up. Okay, I'm very confused by what's going on here. Now we're holding firm. Now this appears to be in line. I'm very confused. Okay. Sure. Let's go ahead and pin open all of these fuel tanks at this time. Pin this guy open, pin this guy open, and pin this guy open, and pin... that one's already open. Okay. So that should be all of our fuel tanks. And we're just going to say, out. Okay, excellent. We're going to continue flowing out only this tank. None of these others at this time. So we're only burning from this tank. This is definitely very awkward. This number is continuing to shift very strangely. There's definitely weirdness going on here. We're not going to be doing this next time. I can tell you that. It's a little too strange. So let's get this all moved on over. There we go. And we can then undock this. So that's out of here. That saves us some weight. However, I'm not convinced that this will help our unbalanced weight at all with how long this is. Yeah, it's definitely not helping it. I'm going to turn the RCS on. There we go. And that'll help us hold position here. This is now saying 10 minutes on this burn. Okay, well, it still shouldn't matter. This should be close enough. And this number has now dramatically increased. Okay. I have no idea what's happening here, to be honest. I think the game is very confused about what's going on. But that's okay. So we're trying to hold this attitude, right? And we're going to have to thrust limit this guy way, way down, it would appear. So, what will this landing end up looking like, I wonder? And can we get away with physics warping? No, we cannot. We definitely can't get away with physics warping. How are we doing on our monoprop? We can't hold that forever either. Okay, so we've got all of these reaction wheels running. Indeed. But we're still having trouble holding this attitude for some reason. And it's almost certainly due to the weight differential here. That's not shocking necessarily, but I did expect that we'd be able to hold this attitude better than this, especially since we were able to previously. Now, the reason we were able to previously, I think, is because we were in line here. Meaning that this weight differential was the only actual weight differential at that time. So that's fine. This is going to be a very lengthy burn. We are able to hold this attitude. And we have a lot more fuel showing up now, so I guess that's good. Let's try bringing up our thrust limiter with this gone. I don't think it'll be better. Definitely not. Okay, so I mean, we've got a pretty unbalanced load here, and we're going to cut the engines for the moment. We'll just head on over. Cool. So we know that we have to sit at about 20% thrust here. This should still probably be sufficient to land over Gilly, to be clear. And we're going to have a lot of this fuel get drained on the way as well. So throttling back up here, and this is just going to be a lengthy burn. So it looks like we're just going to have to put cuts in here and only have these burns happen on camera minimally. A lot of this will have to happen off camera, I think. So that is some exciting stuff. Once again, I'm going to quick save here. I'm going to try again with the physics warp. Oddly, the engine has stopped emitting particles, but we're still receiving thrust. Okay. I think broadly that's okay. But we'll just get this inclination change done here. I'm going to take it off of physics warp here because we're definitely a little off. And we'll be back once this burn is over. See you guys in a bit. Okay, and we're back here. This burn is nearly over, but as you can see, I dropped the maneuver and am now just burning anti-normal. The maneuver was drifting a bit off of the node, and I'm like, it's not really necessary to fit the maneuver perfectly. So we're just burning anti-normal here and going until this is back down to 0.0 degrees. That is the goal here, and it should tick down to 0.1 very shortly here. Or maybe not. If not, then I came back too early. But I think I got this about right. Yeah, there we go, 0.1. Ooh, okay. Well, I'll be right back again. Okay, I apologize for that. I appear to no longer be dying. That is excellent. And we also appear to be in our proper orbit at this point. So that is all good. 0.0 degrees, and let's see what a transfer will end up looking like. Bring this on down. Okay, awkward timing is awkward. Do we need to wait a full orbit, or would we look reasonable over here? Let's find out. Nearly a full orbit, but that is an encounter. Okay, is it a good encounter? Is the next question. Get out of here, alarm. Okay, there we go. Is this a good encounter? Let's find out. I mean, it's somewhat reasonable. I do think that we could back off a little bit on the on the prograde here. So a little bit more retrograde. And bring it in something a bit more like this. That should work reasonably well. 847.2 meters per second. We'll get in position for that. And hopefully, we'll be able to burn this reasonably. 31-minute burn time. Okay. That's a lengthy one. No doubt about that. So we're thrust limited down to 15, right? That's definitely a thing. And we had to be thrust limited down to 15%. We should definitely begin this warp, but it's going to be a fairly lengthy warp. This is definitely an inefficient transfer. No doubt about it. I'm currently thinking instead of assembling in Kerbal orbit, we should maybe assemble in the orbit of the destination location. That'll probably be a little bit better. Less wasted fuel overall. Less of this nonsense that we've got going on right now. And we still don't have to have, like, a landing system for each individual module. I think that's probably going to be our better bet going forward. Which will largely be what we did here, to be clear. But it'll definitely be interesting. At least that would make sense to me for the low gravity, no atmospheres, right? Moons, essentially. But what about for some place like Eve? I don't think a 10-meter heat shield will cover this, even if we have this excluded, right? I'm guessing that to be the case. So we're definitely considering that sort of thing right now. But we've definitely learned a few things from this setup. Assembling in the orbit of the target location makes a lot more sense to me than what we've done here. Because these transfers are exciting. There's no doubt about that. Now, I believe that some of it may be due to... No, I think it's just weight distribution. I think that's literally the whole thing. Okay, well, we're going to start this burn in about 50 seconds. I'm going to quick save here, and I'm going to try to physics warp this. Let's hope that we can get that. So we're going to warp forward a little bit here. Because this is a very long burn. Even with physics warp, this is a pretty long burn. So let's get ready for that. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. And off we go. Okay, so the burn has commenced, but it will take a while. We can try to physics warp it and see what actually ends up happening. We appear to have a pretty hard time actually holding to the correct location. But it's pretty close. It might actually be close enough to get through a significant portion of this burn anyway. Things might be a little awkward once we get there, and I'm still not convinced that we don't need a refuel. But we could bring in a refuel tanker, no real problem, once we get into orbit of Eve. And we can definitely do that. I'm just not sure that we have enough. Well, we could do a timing intercept of Gilly, rather than an inclination change. We'll have to see how much fuel we have left over when we get there. But that would be the overall sort of goal. So if we hop into the map here, what we would end up looking at is, and I'm going to... Okay, the maneuver just disappeared. And this reset itself. Good thing I quick saved. Regardless, this is just a retrograde burn here. So we could just lock to retrograde. And we could theoretically recreate our maneuver, but it would be really awkward at this point with it already in progress. Or actually, what ended up happening here is the maneuver just changed on us. Yeah, that's really weird. I'm going to get rid of the maneuver here. And we're just going to lock retrograde. Get out of here, maneuver. Okay. Strange things are ensuing here, but we can handle this. We can handle this. So we're just locking to retrograde here, or as close to retrograde as we can, and we're bringing in this periapsis. This should be still fairly accurate, as long as we keep an eye on this. But this is definitely not my preferred way to do things anymore. Noted. Definitely noted. Now, these wheels are going to be... Oh, this wheel's actually broken already? I don't know how that wheel got broken already, but it doesn't actually matter. All we have to do is land, and we can extend these legs if we need them. But honestly, I think we'll be okay. We don't need to wheel this around. The only reason I had this wheeled was because of the contract, which we're not going to get anyway, and we knew that that probably wouldn't be the case. But that's fine. A satellite in a stationary orbit of Gilly. Oh yeah, that's something that we were going to do. Indeed, that is something that we were going to do. We should do that probably after this, but we do need to get that orbital spacewalk near Eve as well. So that'll be fine. We'll get that done shortly here. Okay, how are we looking on this burn? Well, we've got a ways to go. No doubt about that. No doubt about that indeed. I would pause the recording here. If we do that, then this video is definitely going to be a little bit late, but I think this is the best we can do. I was not planning to have to thrust limit this down to 15% after our previous successful 100% thrust burn, but again, that's because of the positioning of the engine, which it does need to be here. So this is fine. We'll just let this go, and I'll be back in a bit. Okay, this burn isn't entirely over, but it is closer. I'm not going to call it close, but it's closer. I wanted to pop back here because I just had a thought about how to potentially land one of these after assembling it in orbit above Eve. And the idea would be, we have it assembled, but these parts here can fold up for re-entry purposes. So while we're entering, they're folded up to be parallel to the core, and then they can be folded out once we arrive on the surface, or at least slow down enough. That's a potential option there, and then we would have a 10-meter heat shield that would expand out. I think that would be somewhere around this big. We'd have to test that, but that's definitely an interesting thought that I had. And that should work over any sort of atmospheric body, in theory. So that's definitely an interesting thought. But we are bringing this periapsis on in here, and we do have a ways to go on that yet. So I will be back in just a bit, and if I have any more wacky ideas, I'll let you know. Okay, we are much closer now here, and we should be crossing this threshold fairly soon. So we'll continue our physics warp here for a little bit, but I definitely wanted to capture the actual end of this burn on camera, so we'll go for a little bit here, but we had quite a lot of time off camera. So this burn will be completed here very shortly, I believe. Yeah, we're definitely coming in here. There we go. I'm going to come out of physics warp, and we're going to go directly onto retrograde. And are we looking for like a minimal encounter here? I'm not sure. We can experiment a bit with that. Okay, this would be a minimal encounter right here. So if we were to do that, what would this take to actually capture? That's not so bad, actually. Hypothetically, what if we were to set Gilly as our target? What would this end up looking like? The timing isn't great, but we might be able to change the actual burn timing and get an encounter. I mean, it'd be a little wacky for sure. Yeah, that'd be real wacky. Okay, I don't think that's our best bet. Let's bring this on back, and let's go for just a circularization here. And we can try to get a better encounter. So we'll bring this on back to something a little bit more along the lines of this-ish. That could work. It's not perfectly on that oh, that was inclination changing. Okay, there we go. Something kind of like that. And we can see we're going to be 14.1 degrees off, but we've got a really awkward inclination. Realistically, though, that shouldn't be that difficult to get changed over. 14.1 degrees, but at this distance, toss in a bit of retrograde. Something like that. That would be how much delta V? 77 meters per second. That's not bad at all. And then we bring this guy on in. Oh, that's really close in terms of timing, too. Not quite where we need it to be, but would you look at that? That's an encounter right there. For how much? 99.5 meters per second. Okay. Let's do it. So we're going to align for this maneuver. This is going to be a 16-minute burn, so that would be 4 minutes under physics warp, which will definitely be exciting. But let's go ahead and warp forward here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the recording again, and we'll be back close to the end of that burn. See you guys in a bit. Okay, and we've got about 30 seconds left in this burn here. Fantastic. We're just bringing this on around here, and that'll be absolutely fine. Another roughly 16 meters per second to go here. I did run us out of monoprop doing that, unfortunately. I was burning the monoprop while warping to try to hold us a little bit closer, but it's all good. We are out of monoprop now. That's fine. Not too concerned about that. We've got 500 meters per second left. This is going to be a little bit down to the wire, but I think it'll be okay. I hope. This is Gilly, after all. So around we go, a little further. There we go. We're in orbit. Perfect. That'll do. So at this ascending node, we know that we need to change this to be like so and bring it in retrograde. Overshot that a little bit. Let's bring that back around. Close enough for now. And then we'll bring this in retrograde and fine-tune this just a little bit. Sure, something like that will do for the time being. Retrograde that on in. Ooh, that's close. Okay. Let's just get a little bit of anti-normal, or rather anti-radial in there. Little bit of that, I think. No? No, not at all. Okay, cool. So we'll push this back out. I think we have too much retrograde to do that right now. Something along the lines of that. Beautiful. 99.6 meters per second. What orbit is that going to get us? I mean, it's not an orbit. It's pretty high up there, but we can change that easily. We don't actually care about this orbit. That's for a different contract. And for the moment, we could bring this over to, like, here. I suppose that's doable. And then we could bring it a little bit... Ooh, that's very sensitive. Okay. Incredibly sensitive. We'll call this good. We'll call that good. So that's going to be a 2 minute and 24 second burn. Are we still physics warping? We actually are not. Okay. Let's warp over to that burn. Fantastic. Actually, before we do that, we do need to go on an orbital spacewalk near Eve. So let's go ahead and have Milnard EVA here. There we go. Contract complete. Beautiful. Excellent. We'll hop back in. That contract is now done. So now we can continue to warp. And of course we need to plant a flag on Gilly, which we'll do after we land this, which for the record is not going to be this episode. Next episode is going to be us going into Gilly and hopefully landing. I think we've got enough Delta V to pull that off, and hopefully enough attitude control to pull that off. Fingers crossed on that one, but we'll see. If our thrust to weight isn't going to be high enough, then we're going to have to do something about our weight situation. And how will we do that? Well, probably by pulling fuel out of here and moving it into, like, this central tank. In fact, that might not be a bad idea overall. Just pinning open all of these fuel tanks and just moving all of our fuel into this tank, which we can't do while we're warping. But we're going to be done with that warp in just a moment here. And that will shift mass to being in axis with our engine. Not necessarily a lot of mass, but some mass. Is this tank open? Yeah, that's that one. Okay. Just wanted to double check that. Cool. So that moves all of our fuel mass to being in this axis. That will hopefully help matters. But we will commence this burn in about 30 seconds. Cool. Commencing burn now. And off we go. And yet we're able to hold attitude here reasonably well. I want to check in. Our thrust to weight over Eve is, of course, really low. That's normal for Eve. Eve is difficult to move around in. Where is Eve? Where are you at, Eve? I know you're here somewhere. There's Eve. Hi, Eve. You're very long ways away. That's to be expected. So we're going to bring this on in. And that's going to be... I'm going to go ahead and time warp here. Or rather, physics warp. It'll be slightly off in terms of our attitude, which is unfortunate. I was hoping it'd be a little bit better, but it's looking reasonable. And then we're going to do the actual circularization and landing in the next episode, because this episode is already late, to be honest. I apologize for that, but I was not anticipating this to take as long as it did to create. And we're going to have to come out of the warp now, because we need to make our way over to the actual node. We're not actually on maneuver mode. That would help. So let's head on over here, and once we get that done... There we go, that's much better. Once we get that done, we are going to put a cut in, and then we'll get the actual landing done, assuming that we have enough fuel, which I think we do, next episode. Fingers crossed on that one. So this burn is almost over. I will say that you can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and let's just get this burn done really quick here. 7 more seconds left on it. We're just looking for an encounter. 2, 1, mark. This is almost there. Oh, I overshot that a little bit, but honestly, that's fine. That is fine. We'll call that good. Okay, how much Delta V will this cost to circularize here? That's an important question. I want to see here. This is not where I wanted that to be. I want this to be at the periapsis, and let's see it real quick here. Okay. This looks vaguely doable to me. Vaguely doable. Like I said, that will be a next episode thing. A very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including Casserole, ALS Gamer, Kentuin, James, Shadowwolf, Mlohan80, Kentogan, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Unisoul, Kadra, Rogue Corvid, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.